As residents across California try to recover from back-to-back bouts of winter weather that knocked out power to thousands, and stopped many highways from moving, more snow and rain are seen in the state. Recent days have seen heavy snowfall in several parts of California, an unexpected event for a state not used to harsh winters. Hailstorms will also be produced by the storm, which will affect Southern California's coast, valleys, mountains, and foothills. In certain higher elevations, black ice is predicted to be a major problem when temperatures drop and rain begins to fall. But it's not over yet, as Northern California is anticipating more snow starting on Saturday, following a brief respite from back-to-back winter storms that delivered unusually frigid temperatures and triggered blizzard warnings in some parts of the state. Due to the amount of snow, some routes in Nevada were closed. Through the end of the week, a concern for severe weather will exist as a series of storms that have dumped snow in the west move east and collide with record-warm temperatures. From southern Indiana through Kentucky and Tennessee and into northern Alabama and northwestern Georgia, damaging winds, sporadic huge hail, and a few tornadoes were visible. The risk of powerful storms that could occasionally be more pervasive was increased in the affected areas. A band of heavy snow will fall from the upper Midwest to New England on Friday and Saturday as the storm moves further north. Just south of the area with the most snow, significant sleet, and freezing rain are possible. In certain areas of New York and New England, tens of inches of snow were reported. The next state to experience severe natural disasters will be New York. Revelation 8 verse 7, the first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. During Jesus' time on earth, the scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees constantly demanded that he provide a sign for them. They even posed the question, "What do you do in response to this so that we can see you and believe you? What kind of employment do you do?" The story in John begins immediately after Jesus multiplies 5 barley loaves and 2 fish to feed a large crowd. After numerous healings and yet another feeding miracle, Matthew records this bold request. Jesus was clearly irritated that the purported religious authorities could read weather patterns but not the signs of the times. Matthew 16 verses 1-4. Nature has repeatedly provided signals for God to use in warning, judging, and confirming his calling and intent. God's control over nature can sometimes be seen in his repression of outcomes that would naturally occur. Infestations of plague and locusts, hurricanes and tornadoes, earthquakes and tsunamis, as well as droughts and fires, still occur on the planet. These and other natural calamities are a part of the post-fall curse that has been placed on the world, although they frequently come about as a result of a particular act of God's wrath. When King David sinned against God by commanding a census to ascertain the strength of his army, the Lord sent Gad to call him out. Gad relayed a heartbreaking message: David could choose one of 3 punishments for his faithlessness: a 7-year famine, a 3-month onslaught by a foreign enemy, or a 3-day outbreak of pestilence, or disease. David was in great distress over such a choice and yielded to the mercy of God. But he never doubted that God had the power and the right to inflict any of those judgments upon him and upon Israel. 2 Samuel 24 verses 1-14. Any interpretation of the indications of nature must start with David's insight. Nature is governed by nature's God, it is not an autonomous system. Again, there are occasions when God carries out his will by using natural processes. But frequently, even those organic processes show a marvel of timing, demonstrating the omnipotent power of God. God created everything in this world. He has sent messengers to mankind to bring to the eyewitnesses of his miracles, and his powers, as well as showing them signs and warnings, which showed his mercy and final grace against the sins of mankind. Jesus showed his control over nature throughout his time on earth. In Peter's first sermon, he affirmed that Jesus of Nazareth was a man accredited by God to you by miracles, wonders, and signs, which God did among you through him, Acts 2 verse 22. Clearly, Jesus was the fulfillment of the prophecies concerning the Messiah as foretold in the Old Testament. He was the Word made flesh. Even at his crucifixion, God was offering signs of his divinity and role as Messiah. At that moment the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. Matthew 27 verses 51 to 53. It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon, 45 for the sun stopped shining. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Luke 23 verses 44 to 45. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified, and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Matthew 27 verse 54. America is entering a time of judgment, and it will experience more pain than ever for the mistakes it has made. Not just California but the whole of America. The disaster is slowly spreading to the entire state one by one and will eventually engulf the whole in ruins and blood. Those who are sentenced to experience such punishment will understand where their agony comes from. All of the monarchs of the land, the great men, the commanders, the wealthy, the powerful, the slaves, and the free men will flee to the rocks of the mountains and cry, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb." Revelation 6 verses 15 to 16. As John foresees the outpouring of 6 bowls of wrath, he records in Revelation 16 verse 9 that men will curse the name of God, who had control over these plagues. Tragically, he foretells that they refuse to repent and glorify him and be saved. It is the final lesson to be learned from the natural indications. God is the creator of all things and is the deity of nature. He legitimately employs both ordinary and extraordinary means to carry out his purposes. Signs of nature are increasing before our eyes as a result of his message. Those who have read his word and are looking forward to him will be able to identify the time of his return, just as the wise men were able to spot and follow the star of Bethlehem that announced his birth. Some will just laugh it off and carry on with their lives. When warnings turn into an outpouring of wrath, they will be swept away like those who mocked Noah's teaching. Do not wait. Take solace in Jesus Christ, God's one and only way, truth, and life, who will deliver his followers from the oncoming storm. Followers from